Yep, hit the red button.
Okay, I think we're good.
It's all good.
All right, hello everyone, good morning.
Good morning.
I see that some of you look ready for the day today and well dressed and prepared, maybe, washed up early this morning and look really nice. We're gonna jump in right here with companies that do animal testing. So maybe you see some of the products you might have used this morning on this list here, maybe not. It is most major brands, honestly. If you're looking at cosmetics or any kind of home products, the majority of them have been tested on animals at some point. There's some really good reasons for that, but one of the things that we often deal with in the field of science is ethics questions. So the reason for this lesson today is to discuss ethics in science as it relates to animal testing. And there is no right or wrong answer on this necessarily. I would like you all to get in groups of 4 people at each table. If you kind of move yourselves around, you're good. If you guys need a person. Let's see. There we go. That looks like that works out really well. And let's see, for the group of 3, yeah, this is set up as a very paired exercise because this is the 3-part interview. So pairs interview each other and then you switch and go back the other way. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with my table of 3, but we'll make that work. So up here I have a little bit of information about animal testing. Basically, I want to know what you guys think about testing medicines and other products on animals. And I put some of the information very briefly about that up here. First of all, the reason for animal testing is to make sure that things do work for humans without causing terrible reactions. Part of the logic for testing on animals is that, in a living system, you can test something much better than if you try to do tests outside of a living system. And so that's a really good reason to use it on animals before you try it on humans. Why do we do animal testing with drugs? Well, first of all, it's actually the law. You can't test a drug on a human in the United States until it's gone through a series of certain animal testing. There's some very specific laws to that. And also, dosage testing is kind of done to make sure that patients are given a safe dose of a drug. And here comes my co-teacher. Awesome. So there's also some alternatives to animal testing going on, and some of the reasons for that are that humans and animals don't always react the same way to a drug, so it's not always completely reliable, and also ethical considerations, which is we would prefer not to be testing on animals at some times. So again, going back to this list, you can see all those things that have been tested on animals, but that's not the complete truth. There's also some companies that work very hard to produce products where they avoid animal testing. So today what we have is we have a series of 3 questions for each of you. We're going to take about 3 minutes for each of the pairs to go through the questions, and we're going to reverse and interview the other way. So one person's asking the other person on the sheet those questions. Do you see the question? Let's see here. I got them right there. And yeah, so somebody in your group start first and ask the other person the questions, and you're just going to kind of do an interview as if you were interviewing someone on this topic. And I'll give you about 2 to 3 minutes, and then we'll reverse. Go ahead.
It works well on humans, and that we won't die. We know that we not. We can
Put this on. Because technically, in my view, I view them as
Yeah.
No, it has to be.
I mean, I guess it depends on what it is. If it's like
But then I'll know.
I'd probably still watch. But if it's like a drug and I'm watching it, I probably won't.
I think.
I was, I mean,
Other brands.
well, I guess, but like that's not good. Obviously, not. If that happens in the first place, you're bad. I think like.
Are we moving on to the second question by now?
So neither, I would say neither.
Factors that could really.
The last one. I would say yes.
Could possibly
Anyways, half the people who are life sentence.
10% chance that it won't get
All right, we should be on to the third question by now, wrapping up pretty quick here.
Is that
Yeah, but just the absolute one.
we do a help, right?
All right, if your pairs could join up with your group of four again one more time, and then talk about the findings each of those interviews.
Well, have they reversed? Have you guys haven't done the reverse interviews yet?
Yeah.
Oh,
we
oh
do.
yeah,
Okay,
switch
so now it's
roles.
time to reverse roles and switch with your partner.
Sorry.
Give the answer sheet to the other person, and ask the same questions to the other person so that they get the opportunity to respond. We got about 3 minutes for this.
What are the benefits of using Meditrass? Yeah.
I drive by a lot of things in our end. You ever find yourself that is something
Well, I guess the shampoo I
Yeah.
All right, getting on to the second question now.
Would you be more motivated to buy a product than not? Would you figure? They have to find the right. You would just
Being on the market and something not being on the market.
and you sleep at night.
I'm not like.
So what would be something that you wouldn't buy?
It's like giving up.
This isn't on.
Cigarettes.
All right, should we get on to about the third question now?
Forget it. I said that. Dying of lung cancer.
Bench that 3 minutes.
I'm not really. It's always weird. I don't.
So do you think certain animals are classed? This isn't on the region. Like, is it more ethical?
So in that sense, I think about a rat. I mean, I don't super. I don't have to.
All right, guys, you should be wrapping up your interview questions now. At this point, you are going to take a few minutes to share with your group of four and kind of talk about maybe some of the similarities you guys had in your opinions or major differences. So this is an opportunity for each of you to share out in your group a little bit. So we'll give you each should take about a minute to share out. Guys, go ahead.
Well, like that, we have, I feel like I'm the only one. But like shampoo, what if it has to be perfected so that the meat like doesn't burn your scalp, you know what I mean? Somehow it has to get there, it doesn't just start out.
Humans are so bad. I react to rejects. You probably don't.
Yeah.
I react to another cosmetic. Some people don't.
Yeah.
So it's like you can still test on them. People are made of. Yeah.
What's
Necessary.
What did you?
Yeah. You gotta get like.
Actually, I have a
Probably past that testing.
Well,
You know what? If they pay them, I'm sure they're never going to do
without well, you're not gonna. Everything can become that.
You'll have college students like sure.
Sure.
I mean,
I don't look at it like
Yeah, well, that's true, but.
You need more or less like while they're dying, they're lying on their deathbed and you're like, okay, we're just gonna like drug you up.
It's just about to
Test
So, yeah, I don't certain things.
All right, it looks like you guys are kind of naturally wrapping up your discussions here. At this point, I want to be able to give your table each the opportunity to share a summary of kind of what you guys decided. And so if there's one person from each table or a couple people that want to speak, I think we'll just start with this table over here. And if somebody wants to kind of summarize your discussion.
So we decided that there were a few benefits of using a product that's been tested on animals first. You know if you're going to turn a funny color or be affected by it negatively in some way. As far as being less likely to buy a product if it were not animal tested, we said we would be less likely depending on what it was. I mean, if it's a common household cleaner, we probably wouldn't buy it because we figured there would be another way to test for it. But if it was something that was taken internally, like a medicine, it wouldn't affect it that much. And then animal testing being more justified for some applications than others, we were kind of in the consensus that it would depend on what it was, and that drugs and medicine is more justified than the household products and the cosmetics.
Very interesting. Thinking about maybe the household products aspect, I showed you guys that most major brands are kind of on the board with doing animal testing. I guess maybe one thing that you guys should think about is, would you be willing to pay more for household products that hadn't been tested on animals? Because when I looked at the list of companies that didn't do animal testing, the brands I noticed are generally the kind of thing you would find in a health food store or something of that nature. And they're generally fairly expensive. You know, we're talking 4 rolls of toilet paper for $6, that kind of expense. So that's something to consider. It's very interesting. How about your table, guys?
We said the benefits of using the products that have been tested on animals would be safety. And we said no to the second question because in all reality we didn't really pay attention to if they had been tested or not, or that was our main concern. And then the last one we said, well, we didn't really say it was justified or not. We came up with the view. Well,
This is all you.
all right. We never really finished the view.
You can say what you want to say.
I said it would be well thought out and justified. If we did tested the products, whether household or vaccines, on cellmates and inmates who would be on.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right. Well, I'm gonna try to keep discussion flowing. You know, you're not the first person to have had that idea, honestly.
I view it if they're on death row, they don't have anything to lose, and they shouldn't have. They don't really.
So if they forfeit their rights,
Yes,
we can.
they
I
forfeit their
understand.
rights to be considered a citizen of society, and so justifying it to be considered an animal.
I think you may have brought up a few more ethics concerns, but that's a really interesting topic when you're thinking about science. I guarantee you that, you know, unscrupulous science or scrupulous, if that's how you consider it, has been done on prisoners and inmates in the past. So that's an interesting consideration. How about your table? What did you guys have?
Well, as far as consensus, we didn't have a lot of it. But the benefits would be, of course, safety. It's much safer for us. Probably not as safe for the animals. But, and then you avoid the, I guess, what Jessica brought up. If you test on animals, then you don't have to test on humans. And I'm in favor of, I think I can speak for all of us that wouldn't want to test on humans. More or less likely, I guess we didn't really talk about it, but again, I think I speak for all of us when I would say we don't really consider it.
Okay.
And I think, I mean, it's so hard not to. I mean, it feels like it's inevitable that whatever you buy, unless you go to an organic store, you're going to be buying products that are tested on animals. And lastly, real quick, drugs more important than household products.
Interesting. Something that I think you guys are almost touching on here is, what do you think the main motivation is for testing on animals instead of humans when you're debuting a product? Is it safety for the humans? There's actually a bigger issue there.
Well, probably not necessarily safety as much so as bad public perception.
It's actually fear of lawsuits, and it
Yeah.
kind of dates back to when cosmetic products weren't so rigorously tested on animals. Because animal testing is also very expensive and involved and very heavily regulated. But yeah, I think you guys were getting close there on the issues of testing on animals before you bring something out to the population.
Yeah, the companies probably don't care if the people that are buying it get harmed. It's then they wouldn't buy it. If they're dead, they can't buy it.
Yeah,
Or if they're unhappy with it, they won't buy it.
That's kind of what I wanted you to get to, is, you know, thinking about cosmetics companies and other big companies. Maybe safety isn't their primary motivation. It might be a little financial. Yeah. All right. Great. How did your group do with this? What did you think?
We
guys?
had a fairly, typical conversation. Seems like the rest of the class, aside from the inmates, that didn't come up. And I don't know. We had a couple other things to talk about, especially for the second two questions. We kind of just said the same thing that everyone else said. You know, do we really? It doesn't really say on most brands, this is not tested on animals. Ben and Jerry's ice cream says that, but no other one does. And I was just watching TV yesterday, and they had this, those lawsuit commercials where they sue the medicine companies after they find out after the fact that this medicine kills people. And it was this drug that was given to young boys with ADD and ADHD, and they ended up growing breasts. And that was, I'm sure, tested on animals. It's like, well, the mice didn't grow breasts, so it must be great.
That is, and you're touching on something that's definitely a limitation of animal testing, is we're never 100% sure how one animal's physiological system is going to relate to a human system. We understand which animals have the most similar systems, but when it comes to drugs that we've never tested before, products we've never tested before, there have been products tested that totally harmless to dogs caused rampant cancer to humans who, didn't make it through the FDA's testing procedures. And I don't remember what drug that was, but I was reading about that a couple of days ago. I was like, wow. But on the bright side, we have had many opportunities to catch things that should not be tested on humans by seeing negative results on animals. So this is one of those major issues in science. You'll see people with PhDs on both sides of this issue. One thing I can say is testing has gone down about 25% in the last 10 years. So they're trying to move away from animal testing as much as possible. I hope you guys were able to get something from maybe one of the biggest ethics concerns scientists face today in trying to understand, should we invest in this type of research, or should we try to do something that might be more expensive and not as successful to protect individual animals from suffering? It's a really interesting question. Well, that concludes our lesson on the 3-step interview. Thank you guys, you did a great job. Give yourselves a round of applause.